What is cinematic and what does it mean to shoot cinematic videos? I think the main thing is story. You know, you're working with what is there and how you're trying to communicate a narrative. And you can do that with the composition, like you're basically forcing a narrative or a perspective. It infuses your bias onto an image, whether you are low, high, wide, or tight. You know, all of these have like a psychological effect of how the viewer is going to perceive the image and what story it tells and how that makes them feel. Another thing is color. Colors all have their respective signed psychological moods and how people view them and what it makes them feel. So another thing is like what colors are in the frame. You know, if there's like a red or a yellow, those are usually tied with fear or anxiety or danger or being hungry or love. You can look up all the psychological terms or effects that colors have on people and use that to your advantage on communicating the story that you want to tell. So I'm constantly looking for primary colors, and those are the ones that I usually gravitate towards, is like a blue, yellow, red, and the context in which I find those colors you know, can vary from a sign, or I find a red car that looks really cool. But you know, it's like I think I've kind of whittled it down to the things that I want to take pictures of, and I can be more focused in what kind of narrative that I'm pushing and what kind of story I'm telling. It's also editing, now that I think about it, you know, because if you watch like Uncut Gems, they use editing to make it feel very anxious and make you feel tense the whole time. So it's like, it's not only just, and they use like a very tight lens. So the videos that I'm making are like how I want to feel. I want them to feel blissful and beautiful and slow paced. And it's like if you were taking a deep breath and like slowing down time, like that's how I wish real life was, even though sometimes it isn't. And so hopefully, you know, I convey that story by the lenses that I used and what colors that I show, shooting 60 frames per second versus 24. I think there's a misconception of that, you know, a LUT is gonna save your whole thing. But if there's no story in the frame, a LUT is not going to do anything for you. It can't push colors in there or, you know, fabricate colors that aren't there. You want to shoot in camera as much as possible and try to make sure that the things are there. You know, it might be like what the person is wearing, what color they're wearing, or like what the building is painted, or it's both things. It's like, this is really interesting because it's a green building and somebody in a red raincoat is walking by, and that's what makes it all colorful and interesting. It's like, then the LUT is just there to amplify that, is to enhance that feeling. It's not going off the basis of a LUT, and that's just like the whole thing. Another thing is motion, so like how the camera is moving or what is happening in the camera. For me, it's like if I'm holding the camera still and it's locked, like something in the frame needs to be moving, or if it's something that where there's not a lot of movement, like I want to be moving the camera. You know, either we're panning or we're trying to fake a little dolly move, we're coming in or going out. I think this is all something that makes it a little bit more interesting, and you can add that kind of, it helps amplify the feeling that you want to tell. So yeah, I would highly suggest watching movies. If you want to make cinematic things, I would watch movies. Don't just get cinematic inspo from social media, Instagram, because it's just a snake eating its own tail of people making cinematic videos. I think watch movies, watch how certain directors use the camera to tell a story, or how certain DPs use the camera to make you feel a certain way. I think there's a lot of different ways of telling a story and making a cinematic video, and you just need to find what you're trying to say and like what your perspective is. So please stop putting LUTs on your videos and calling them cinematic.